Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Naya Homibe and today we'll be reviewing We Need New Names by No Violet Bulawayo. Bulawayo is an award-winning Zimbabwean author. In 2011, she was winner of the Ken Prize for African Writing for her short story Hitting Budapest, which is the first chapter in this novel that we're about to review. She has been shortlisted for the Booker Prize for her debut novel We Need New Names and her second one, Glory. On September 27, 2025, she won the Best of Ken Award, a prize celebrating a story from past winners of the Ken Prize for African Writing, to mark its 25th anniversary. We Need New Names was published in 2013 and it was well received. It has given rise to a lot of critical essays and reviews. One of the prominent reviews on it was given by Helen Habila, Nigerian novelist and poet, who applauded Bulawayo for her excellent use of language but criticized her for what is considered as performing Africa. However, British Ghanaian author Taye Salase, the author of Ghana Must Go, responding to that criticism, observed that writers should not be pigeonholed, that people should be allowed to write the kind of stories that appeal to them. And I subscribe to that position because I know that writing is difficult, and if someone doesn't write what they like, they may not even be able to write at all. So from this brief introduction, it is obvious that the novel attracted a lot of attention when it was published. The plot theme of the novel revolves around the growth and development of the protagonist, Darling. The novel is a growing up novel and it explores a lot of dark themes like bad leadership, poverty and hunger, religious hypocrisy. However, the childhood vision of Darling, which is a blend of play, ignorance and innocence, brings some kind of humor into the dark space, such that even in that kind of gloomy space where such dark themes are explored, someone can even laugh and chuckle when they are reading the novel. It has two settings. The first is in Paradise, somewhere in Zimbabwe, and the second is in Detroit, Michigan, in the United States of America. In the first setting, the themes of hunger and poverty, bad leadership are explored. The height of hunger is seen when the children move to the rich neighborhood, which is called Budapest, to hunt for guavas that they use to fill their empty stomachs. And after eating the guavas, they have constipation. On one of the days when they go to the bush to eat themselves, they see the corpse of a dead woman hanging from a tree. And their first reaction is to scream and run away. But in the course of running away, one of them notes that they can actually sell the dead woman's shoes and buy bread. So they go back and take the woman's shoes. So from this, we see how the hardship and hunger rob children of their innocence. So they begin to dabble into things that they are not supposed to dabble into at their age, because actually they are between the ages of 5 to 11. Then the second setting is in America, and that part explores themes like migration, racism, identity, disillusionment. Darling's disillusionment is seen when she realizes that she has to work to save money to go to school. And on one of the days, she wonders why she has to do that, because she still sees herself as a child. But then she realizes that the truth is that she has to work if she wants to go to school. And then eventually, when she begins to plan to go to school, her auntie tells her that she cannot study just any course that she wants. She has to study either medicine or nursing, and if those two do not work out, then she has to go for law. That she cannot come all the way from Zimbabwe to America to study anyhow course, and she's doing this so that Darling's future in the United States can be secured financially. So these are some of the themes that are explored in these two settings, but I want to focus on one, which is the diminution of patriarchy in the novel. And this is done in three ways. The first is through the representation of the relationship between fathers and their children. The second is through the representation of heterosexual romantic relationships. And the third is through the way the church is captured in the novel. The first one, the relationship between fathers and their children, we see that in the relationship between Darling and her father. Darling tells us, father comes home after many years of forgetting us, of not sending us money, of not loving us, not visiting us, not anything else, and parks in the shack, unable to move, unable to talk properly. So this is a case of abandonment. The man goes to South Africa in search of greener pastures, but then he doesn't communicate with his family for many years. And he only returns when he's about to die because he has HIV and AIDS. And from Darling's thoughts, we see that Darling does not regard her father. She actually sees him as an irresponsible person. He only returns now because he needs someone to take care of him. And then in the second relationship, which we see between Dumi and his adopted son, Dumi is a Zimbabwean man who marries a white woman. And at the wedding reception, when goodwill messages from Zimbabwe is being read out, the translator, after the messages are read in Zimbabwean dialect, the translator translates into English, and Darling notes that the translator leaves out some things. He leaves out things like reviving the ancestral home and teaching the grandsons a beautiful culture and being quick on her feet and obeying her husband. So the question is, why did the translator leave out some things? And what are the implications of leaving out some things? He leaves out some things because it's an interracial marriage. And in the United States, it's actually Dumi who needs this woman. He needs the woman to legalize his stay in the United States. And so he's the one who will try to be quick on his feet. He's the one who will try to fit into that relationship so he can thrive in the United States. And in his relationship with his son, we see that he's incapable of being a father to the boy. The boy is 4 years. At the wedding, he's just throwing his ball up and down and throwing it into the plates of food of their guests. And then the father tries to tell him, just don't play. When we get home, you will play. And the boy screams at him and says, you're not my daddy. And Dumi is so embarrassed. So in that situation, we see that, one, the boy does not even recognize him as his father, and that Dumi will not be able to handle that boy, like discipline him like his true son. So when we see the relationship between Darling and her own father, and then Dumi and his adopted son, we see how patriarchy is declining in the space of the novel. And then the second is heterosexual relationships. In heterosexual relationships, we see it in the relationship between Darling's mother and her boyfriend. When her husband abandons her, she looks for someone to take care of her emotional health. And according to Darling, this man has no name, no face, and no voice. The reason is because he visits at night when Darling will not be able to see his face. And then when he talks at all, they talk in whispers. According to Darling, they talk like they are stealing, so in whispers. So she's not able to decipher the man's face, and she doesn't also know the man's name. So if you look at it, this is a way of obliterating or removing the strength of patriarchy in the novel. And then also, Darling does not like the man because she says that the man does not ask about her. He treats her like a faraway country, and he does not bring anything for them. So somehow this man also mirrors the behavior of Darling's father, who does not care for them. He only comes and he stays with Darling's mother and he leaves. That is all he does. So it's the same behavior that Darling's father exhibits. So in this way, the patriarchal strength, the influence of fathers and children is gradually eroded. Then in the second relationship between Aunt Faustalina and Uncle Kojo, And Faustina is Darlene's auntie who takes care of her in the US. In her relationship with Kojo, we see that Darlene's auntie is the one who actually is stronger, morally, financially, and if she's not there, the man will not be able to handle certain things. So if we look at that too, we see that the relationship is declining. At some point, Uncle Kojo complains that wives in Ghana make hot food for their husbands, and Faustina tells the man that they are in the United States. So in this situation, the space is also affecting patriarchy, because she does 3 jobs. When she comes back, she's very tired and exhausted, and so a man is expected in that situation, especially a man who stays at home, is expected to go into the kitchen and fix food for himself. So in these spaces, we see how the space is also contributing to eroding the influence or power of patriarchy in the novel. And then the third is the collapse of the influence of the church. This is seen in the clergyman who is in charge of the Pentecostal church in the novel. He's very transactional and exploitative in his relationship with the people. When Darlene's father returns home, he tells the family to give him $500 to exorcise HIV and AIDS from the man's body. And when they are not able to do that, he leaves them. And he also abuses a woman sexually in church in the name of carrying out deliverance. Also, whenever Darlene wants to talk about something that is boring or unserious, she uses Bible passages to talk about those unserious things. So from this, we see that the church, which is one of the pillars of patriarchy, no longer has any power in the lives of the people. And that is also why its heterosexual relationships are getting weak. Women want people who will choose them on a daily basis and no longer for better, for worse. So the novel is very interesting. In terms of gaps or limitations, there's a chapter entitled The Way They Lived. And this chapter talks about the collective experiences of illegal immigrants in the US, how they try to live their lives, how they try to hide away from the authorities, how they're always in pain and doing jobs that make them feel embarrassed. So this particular chapter does not bring in any specific experience of Darlene. It also does not bring in the specific experiences of people like maybe Faustina or Kojo who live with Darlene in the United States. So if we remove this chapter from the novel, it will not affect the organic whole of the novel. So that is the little challenge that the novel has. But apart from that, the novel is just sweet to read and to enjoy. In conclusion, I will say, if you haven't laughed for a long time or you are depressed, that this novel can serve as a therapy for depression. Because when you consider the childhood vision of the children, the way they use language, for instance, if they want to talk about something that is not real, like if somebody flashes their teeth, they'll just say it's not a smile. Or if people are not legally married, they will say they are not married. Or if it is not a first world country, there's this country game that they do. So they have country, and they have not country. So if it's not a country, it means that they are not developed countries. They are countries where anything goes. So that is the way they use language. So when you come into this space that explores gloomy themes, you are actually going to burst out laughing or chuckle, because the narration is coming from children and they have a funny way of interpreting the adult world. Then secondly, if you are a burden writer and you're thinking of how to cultivate your own unique way of using language, reading this novel will help you to begin to have those possibilities in mind. So I encourage you, if you haven't read this novel, pick it up and read it. You're going to really smile. You will laugh if you haven't done that in a long time. I'd like to hear, or I'd like to read your comments and your questions. Any question you have for this review, any comments you have, just put it down. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye.